The wedding ballroom fell silent, crystal glasses stopped clinking, the orchestra stopped playing. Just as the billionaire groom lifted the silver knife to cut the towering 7-tier wedding cake, a woman in a lavender maid's uniform rushed forward, grabbed the knife from his hand, and shoved the enormous cake off the table. The cake crashed onto the marble floor with a deafening thud. Guests gasped, the bride screamed. "What have you done?" she shouted. Security guards sprinted toward the maid, but instead of running, she pointed directly at the ruined cake and shouted, "Nobody touch it." Every eye turned toward her, then she looked straight at the billionaire's fiancé. There is something inside that cake no one was supposed to find. The bride's face lost its color. Before we continue, if you believe courage sometimes means risking everything to protect complete strangers, please like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone who believes truth always wins, and subscribe to the Kindness Legacy for more unforgettable stories where one brave decision changes everything. Margaret Doyle had worked as a housekeeper for nearly 30 years. She wasn't famous, she wasn't wealthy, most wedding guests didn't even know her name. She simply cleaned quietly, remembered everyone's favorite tea, and treated every member of the household with kindness. She had worked for billionaire entrepreneur Nathaniel Brooks for almost 8 years. She had watched him rebuild his technology company after losing both parents in a tragic accident. She had watched him donate millions to children's hospitals. She had watched him become one of the country's most respected businessmen, and she had never once seen him raise his voice at another person. When Nathaniel announced his engagement to Isabella Carrington, everyone celebrated, everyone, except Margaret, not because she disliked Isabella, because she noticed things others ignored. Staff members disappeared after disagreeing with her, receipts vanished, charity donations quietly stopped. Employees who questioned expenses were suddenly transferred. Nothing was dramatic enough to prove wrongdoing, but together, the pieces didn't fit. Margaret said nothing, she simply watched. 3 weeks before the wedding, something unusual happened. She entered Isabella's private sitting room to leave freshly pressed clothes. The door was slightly open. Inside, Isabella was speaking quietly on the phone. Margaret wasn't trying to listen, but one sentence froze her. "Everything will happen after the cake is served." Margaret quietly stepped away. She told herself she had misunderstood. Then strange deliveries began arriving, boxes marked decorations, packages labeled private. Every one of them went directly to Isabella's suite. Nobody else was allowed inside. Margaret became concerned, not suspicious, concerned. The morning of the wedding, she walked into the ballroom hours before guests arrived. The pastry team had finished decorating the magnificent cake. As she dusted nearby furniture, she noticed Isabella entering the kitchen alone. 5 minutes later she left carrying nothing. The pastry chef returned moments afterward looking confused. "I don't remember leaving this tray here." Margaret looked toward the cake. Something wasn't right. One decoration near the center looked freshly moved, almost invisible. She remembered Isabella's phone call. "Everything will happen after the cake is served." Her heart began racing. She immediately informed the head of security. Unfortunately, the ballroom was already filling with guests, without clear evidence. No one wanted to interrupt the ceremony. The wedding continued. Minutes later, Nathaniel and Isabella stood smiling before hundreds of guests. The cake was rolled into the center of the ballroom. Nathaniel lifted the ceremonial knife. Margaret saw Isabella glance toward the cake, then toward several important investors sitting near the front. Her expression wasn't joyful. It was tense. In that instant, Margaret made the biggest decision of her life. She rushed forward, knocked the knife away, and pushed the cake from the table. The ballroom erupted. Isabella screamed louder than anyone. "She's ruined my wedding." Security grabbed Margaret's arms. Nathaniel stared at her in disbelief. "Margaret. Why?" She looked directly at him. "Please. Search the cake." Nobody moved. The head of security hesitated, then he remembered something. Margaret had never lied. Not once in 8 years. He ordered the pastry team to stop everyone from touching the fallen cake. Carefully, the lower layers were examined. Hidden inside one tier, investigators discovered a sealed envelope wrapped in waterproof plastic. Inside were confidential company contracts, offshore account numbers, forged signatures, evidence linking millions of dollars in corporate fraud to fake charitable organizations. The ballroom became completely silent. Nathaniel looked toward Isabella. She couldn't speak, those documents were never supposed to be found. Investigators later discovered someone had hidden them inside the cake, intending to retrieve them after the celebration before destroying the evidence. Margaret hadn't uncovered poison. She had uncovered something even bigger. A carefully hidden financial crime. Police officers arrived within minutes. The investigation expanded over several months. Financial records confirmed that several executives had secretly worked with Isabella to move company funds through shell organizations. Nathaniel himself had been the intended fall guy. Once the fraud surfaced years later, every signature would have pointed back to him. Margaret's courage had unknowingly saved not only his fortune, but also his reputation. Months later, Nathaniel invited every employee to the company auditorium. Margaret believed she was attending another staff meeting. Instead, hundreds of employees stood and applauded as she entered. Nathaniel walked onto the stage. When people think about heroes, they usually imagine someone powerful, someone famous, someone fearless. He smiled toward Margaret. My hero carried a feather duster. The audience laughed through tears. Nathaniel announced a new employee recognition program named the Margaret Doyle Integrity Award, honoring workers who protected others by doing the right thing even when no one was watching. Margaret accepted the award with tears in her eyes. I only did what any honest person should do. Nathaniel gently shook his head. No. You did what very few people are brave enough to do. A year later, the company had become stronger than ever. Every executive completed ethics training, anonymous reporting systems protected employees, and Margaret continued doing exactly what she had always done, making tea, straightening picture frames, greeting everyone with a smile. Nothing about her daily routine changed, except now, everyone knew her name. One afternoon, a young intern asked Nathaniel why he trusted Margaret more than highly paid executives. He smiled. Because titles can be purchased. Integrity cannot. If this story touched your heart, please write "Courage begins with honesty" in the comments. We'd love to hear from every member of the Kindness Legacy family. Sometimes, the bravest person in the room isn't standing at the altar or sitting in the front row. Sometimes they're quietly working in the background, doing the right thing when everyone else is afraid. And sometimes one courageous decision made in a single second can save countless lives, protect the innocent, and reveal a truth that would otherwise remain hidden forever. If this story inspired you, please like this video, share it with someone who believes honesty still matters, leave a comment below, and subscribe to the Kindness Legacy for more heartwarming stories where courage, kindness, and integrity change lives forever.